Photo ops are always a little awkward. Thank you, Hector. I am truly honored to share this podium with you and with so many other leaders in public service. As I look out over this enormous and packed room, it is wonderful to have so many friends, supporters, judges, and public officials here with us. Thank you all for being here today to support the critical work that we do on behalf of communities across the city. It's also a special treat to have 5 of our past honorees here with us today. Evan Davis, Zach Carter, Steve Cutler, Gary Naftalis, and Betsy Plevin. We're here to celebrate 2 new honorees, Steve Reiss and Jane Sherburne, for their lifelong contributions to public service. We had the pleasure of hosting Steve and Jane at NYLPI for a breakfast a few weeks ago with our entire staff. It's a wonderful tradition of getting to know our distinguished honorees and sharing our passion for the work in a more intimate setting. Their deep engagement and insightful questions about the work that we do for our client communities left a lasting impression on each of us. Though I'm currently the fresh face in the room, or so I like to keep telling myself, I first walked through the doors of NYLPI on October 25th, 2001. It was a tough time for the city and a really tough time for civil rights. Like many before and many since, we had gathered at New York Lawyers to come up with a collaborative solution. Just a few years into my practice, I knew then that NYLPI was special. I spent the next 12 years working on one frontier of civil rights in the South Bronx. As you'll hear, it's also a core client community for NYLPI. A person of color living in the South Bronx is more likely to be disabled, evicted, enter a homeless shelter, be on welfare, stopped and frisked by the police, arrested, or have their children removed than a resident of any other county in the state of New York. As we work in communities across the city, we see these patterns repeat again and again. Traditional models of advocacy only offer piecemeal solutions. But when we listen to our clients and their communities to understand these interconnected needs, then we can build interdisciplinary solutions. This is the core of NYLPI's approach, a tenacious brand of advocacy that empowers these communities to achieve their own vision of social justice. Michael Rothenberg was first a mentor to me and then later a colleague and a friend. I am so excited to join NYLPI at such a critical time to build on his legacy and make sure that we drive to our full potential now and plan for an even more successful future. In the next few months, we'll work side by side with our client communities and other stakeholders on a strategic vision for NYLPI. We embark on this process with 3 core commitments. First, we will listen and adapt to our community's changing needs. The problems our clients face are as varied as they are powerful. The impact of race and poverty on urban life provides ever-changing challenges to remaining relevant and effective. As our clients' problems and priorities change, so must we. Next, we will raise the profile of the work that we do with your support and with the support of so many. We know that NYLPI is strong, and we're here to make it stronger and louder. We will make sure that we are an active, prominent, and positive voice in Albany, City Hall, the courts, and the press. And finally, we know that urban communities have wicked problems. We will continue to innovate and push the boundaries of creativity in the service of our clients. Now, you are a critical part of this vision. We have to have the resources, your time, your expertise, your support to tackle these challenges. And these are our challenges, but they're also our collective opportunity to expand our capacity to meet the future arm in arm with our clients. I want to thank Marnie Burke, our Director of Pro Bono, and her team for their energy and leadership in linking both our client communities and also our sister organizations with the legal services that they so need. I encourage you to call them to get more involved in our Pro Bono program. I promise you the work will push you and pay you back in ways that you never dreamed. I also want to recognize our development team for their tireless efforts in making this event a fabulous success. So thank you to Isabella Choa, Tanya Silas, John Dumais, Melissa Starr, and Ann Coster. Now, I'm the newest member of the NYLPI family, but I know that it has been a rough year of loss and healing for our amazing staff. So I would like for our entire staff to stand up and be recognized. It is a testament to your strength and your character that you were able to accomplish so much in this past year. And it's also a testament to the incredible leadership of our legal director, Miranda Massey. She stepped in during the height of this tragedy and shepherded our organization through it. And we are all the stronger for it. And with that, I want to welcome Miranda to the podium. Thank you.
You know, there are two things litigators are supposed to know. The first is when to sit down, which, if I knew it, would be right now. The second is what not to say. And of course, like many of you out there, I travel a good deal and I'm often away for special occasions like birthdays, anniversaries, Valentine's Day. And today, I mean, this year, I told my wife, my wonderful and talented wife, Matt, I said, this year is going to be different. I am going to be here for Valentine's Day. So we can have a wonderful, nice, romantic lunch. What I didn't tell her was that we would be joined by 800 of our closest friends. So, first, I want to thank New York Lawyers for this award. It really is an incredibly special award, especially given the company of past recipients, some of whom are here today. But we all know who the real heroes are. The real heroes are the NYLPI staff. They're the ones who do this work day in and day out, and who are dedicated, don't get paid very much for it, but they're on a mission and they do it so well, and that spirit was embodied in Michael Rothenberg, who many of you here know and deeply remember. I also want to thank Weil Gotshal, you know, my partners, my firm. Weil's pro bono program really is, in fact, wonderful. It's wonderful because Weil has a superb pro bono staff. Miriam Buell, Johanna Markson, Barbara Nichols. It all works because of you, and you should stand up. Weil averages about 80,000 pro bono hours a year, and that's the equivalent of a 40-person public interest law firm. It's a good-sized public interest law firm, so we're very proud of those efforts. I also want to congratulate Jane Sherburne. I can't think of a better person to share today's honors with. She's truly deserving and wonderful career and history and dedication to pro bono. Most of all, I really want to thank all of you for being here. You're so critical to the work that NYLPI does, and without your support, this just doesn't happen. So each and every one of you, our thanks to you for being here and supporting the work of NYLPI. You know, I always like to say in these events, we go to these events, we go home, we feel good, and then we go about our daily lives, and that's understandable, it's as it should be. But it's really important to always put things in perspective. And here's the perspective. The perspective is that 35% of the world's population makes between $1,000 and $12,000 a year. 50% of the world's population lives on less than $3 a day, and there are 1 billion people in the world. That's more than the combined populations of the US, Canada, and the EU live in chronic hunger. So if you're sitting in this room, you're among the most fortunate people on earth, and it's really important never to forget that. Look, doing pro bono work, if you're a professional, is critical. And we hear a lot today, it's always in the legal press, about law firms or a business, and certainly that's true. But practicing law is a profession. And doing pro bono work is the purest expression of the fact that we're a profession. It fulfills our obligation to help those in need. It fulfills our obligation to make the system better. And there are actually, candidly, selfish reasons to do pro bono work. Time and again, I speak to lawyers who will tell me that the most rewarding professional thing they've ever done was their pro bono work. Whether it's helping someone gain asylum in the United States so they don't have to be deported back to a country where they'll be tortured, whether it's preventing the eviction of a family that would have been evicted but for the help of their pro bono counsel. Pro bono work is rewarding, it makes you a better professional, and it makes you, frankly, a better human being. And trust me, there is enormous need out there for pro bono legal services. Just a couple of statistics. Legal aid has to turn away 90% of the people that come to it for civil legal assistance. 98% of the people who go to housing court facing eviction do so without a lawyer. Just to take a recent example, Hurricane Sandy. Over 55,000 people were denied relief from FEMA. They're all going to need legal help on those appeals. All right, and that's right here at home. And what I'd like to do today, in a couple of minutes I have left, is actually float a model. I have the luxury of not having to flesh it out because I only have 2 minutes, of a way to leverage our legal services even more. And all the stars are aligned. What we have is a new requirement in the New York bar that in order to take the bar, in order to be eligible for admission to the bar, students now have to do 50 hours of pro bono work. There are 15,000 people who take the New York bar every year. About 5,000 of them are law students in New York law schools. On the back end, get old guys like me, we have a large cadre of experienced, wonderfully talented senior lawyers at the end of their careers who are available to do pro bono work. We also have the increasing professionalization of pro bono staffs at the law firm. We also have the increased use of clinical courses in law schools, trying to make the third year of law schools meaningful. So you combine all of those things, and what do you get? We should be forming linkages between law school clinics, all those students who need 50 hours of pro bono service in order to be eligible for the bar, law firms and their now much more firmly administered pro bono programs, and legal service providers. And we ought to be able to harness all of those components and leverage that to be able to provide significantly more legal services to those who are desperately in need of it. You know, Martin Luther King said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Another seeker of justice said more directly, "It's not what you say, it's what you do." That was Batman. If we keep both of those precepts in mind, we, like New York lawyers, can really accomplish a great deal. Thank you.
Well, now you know why it's nice to have Brad on your side. Truly, Brad, thank you for that wonderful introduction. You are a true, if delusional, friend. If I could live up to even a fraction of what you described, I would be grateful for a good life. And congratulations to you, Steve. I am glad that we didn't have to use my skills on the other side of the English Channel. There's no question that your achievements make you worthy of this honor. I'm humbled to share the podium with you. Humbled as I am, I'm also delighted to be here, and as a board member of the New York Lawyers for the Public Interest, I'm especially pleased to see you all here. I'm overwhelmed by your generous and enthusiastic support for this organization. I'm pleased to be joined today by my son, Ben Van Huvelen, who's a journalist here in New York, and by my son-in-law, Adam Shoemaker, who's an associate at Davis Wright Tremaine in Washington, D.C. Pretty impressive, don't you think, that I get my son-in-law here for his mother-in-law? And I'm grateful to see so many BNY Mellon colleagues, nearly all active participants in our legal department pro bono program, and with their help and enthusiasm and dedication, we have done a lot to be able to establish this program and creates great momentum and move it in the right direction. And I'm grateful to so many friends and law firms who continue to demonstrate that your partnership with BNY Mellon is deep and strong. Thank you all. This is also a poignant moment to bring you all together, a special inflection point in the life of New York lawyers. We have a new director, and we have survived Michael's death. As much as New York lawyers was Michael Rothenberg for all of us, it did not die when he did. In fact, Michael's death led to an inspired determination to rededicate and recommit the mission that has made it more vibrant than ever. New York Lawyers for the Public Interest thrives, and Michael's legacy lives. We all, those here in person and those here in spirit, should be proud to have honored Michael so well. As much as we embrace McGregor for the future, I too want to take a minute to talk about Miranda Massey. Over this last year, it has been wonderful to get to know Miranda better and to have watched her embrace the challenge of keeping NYLPI headed true north. With grace, incredible warmth, and a thoughtful intelligence, Miranda has lovingly, yes, lovingly, stepped up to hold this organization together and strengthen it. Her inner light has touched me, and I admire her deeply and thank her for all of us for what she has accomplished and for being who she is. 50 years ago, in the midst of an ugly confrontation in the South over civil rights, President Kennedy demanded, "Where are all the lawyers?" Our profession had not yet consciously recognized a role, much less an obligation, to defend the rights of Black Americans in a harshly segregated society. President Kennedy called the leaders of the bar, that day's analog to lawyers in this room, to an historic meeting at the White House and issued a call to action. He challenged the lawyers he gathered to lead, to use their skill and influence to move the struggle for the protection of civil rights from the streets to the courts, where Black Americans could find justice. This call to action 50 years ago gave birth to the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, which recognized and infused the profession with a new sense of responsibility for engagement with the civil rights movement. Today, the Lawyers Committee has a 50-year history of combating racial injustice with evolving tactics and strategies that have unquestionably improved the lives of millions of Americans. 50 years later, we hope to get President Obama to reissue President Kennedy's call to action. What would that call mean in 2013? How should it challenge us? What can and should we be doing to enable lawyers to answer that call? We need to be thinking about the kinds of things that Steve talked about how to re-engage and engage lawyers in this struggle. What is our answer to the demand today? Where are all the lawyers? Although there's much that can be accomplished in the courts for individuals, blatant discrimination has given way to more subtle forms of disadvantage, but with no less disastrous consequences. This is the space targeted by New York lawyers for the public interest. PCBs in public schools in low-income communities, mentally disabled trapped in facilities that restrict them far more than warranted, immigrants who can't read their prescriptions or their child's report card, poor communities who lose their neighborhood hospital. The call today is no longer to take the civil rights movement from the streets to the courts. I'm persuaded by the work of the New York Lawyers for the Public Interest that lawyers belong back in the streets. New York Lawyers has perfected the art of community lawyering. This is the kind of law practice that is truly problem-solving, that requires a full range of skills and the nimbleness to know when and how to apply each of them. When a well-timed press conference can create momentum and public pressure, when grassroots coalitions demanding a voice will force political leaders to listen, when tenants armed with knowledge can oust a slumlord, and when to file a lawsuit. These are the tools of community lawyering that turn disadvantage into equality, the call to action for these times, the model for tackling the more insidious problems at the root of barriers to full participation in our society. You are supporting a wonderful organization, and I hope you will respond to a renewed call to action as we move forward. Thank you all for being here.